Hey, it's Lisa DeBoer from Pediatrics and my husband.
Hey, I'm Scott.
We are here celebrating our 100th episode of our Gimme 5 on Friday, so I decided to call a board meeting with all of our Manny kids from Scenarios and Seconds surrounding us. So many of these kids are family members and friends. This is my niece Harper over here and our niece Maya over there. And these are our, again, family and friends. And over the years, our Scenarios and Seconds program that came out over almost 7 years ago has just grown. And we now have almost, 75 new images of kids. And we're so grateful to all of the parents that have allowed your children to help us with our mission to save the lives of kiddos. And we're super grateful for that. And we're here to introduce our newest Manny kid, Maggie and Preemie Patrick. These have come about because we are having so many more people that are contacting us and saying, I would love to have more baby scenarios. Give us some more things with infants. And so we decided that that's what our focus was going to be with this Gimme 5 on Friday. Scott, over the last years now that we've been doing our Gimme 5 on Friday, what has been some of the most helpful tips that you would say that you're they remembered nothing else when it comes to kiddos?
So simply, after playing ER and flight nurse forever, the best two things I've ever heard when it comes to taking care of sick kids, and this comes from really smart people, whether they were a nurse, a medic, an RT, a doc, simply there's really smart people out there. And they taught me these two things when it comes to kids. Number one, many of y'all remember from past Gimme 5s, is pink, warm, and sweet.
Yes.
Because with few exceptions, everything else is love. The second of which comes from a PDR doc, and he says, we've got that whole kids are not small adult thing. And he's like, you know what, as a PDR doc, get over it. He's like, last time I looked, kids had one trachea and two lungs. And last time I looked, they're in the same spot. Therefore, they get exactly the same tubes as big people do, just a smaller version. And with very few exceptions, they get the same drugs as big people do, just a smaller dose. And with that in mind, honestly, that changed my pediatric career because it kind of takes your tension level down a couple notches. Yeah. Because if you know it's the same tube, same hole, same drugs, just smaller. And if you couple that with some sort of a cheat sheet, because doing mental math under stress is stupid. Simply having some sort of an app, some sort of a cheat sheet to tell you this size tube, this much drug, honestly, just makes your life when you got a sick kid just a whole lot easier.
Yeah, and I think that's been one of the really big things and how this even all started years ago. We were teaching our labs and we needed a spot to actually do a filler for, it was in between a session and I'm like, hey, why don't we let people play with the Brasilo tapes? And I was watching them fumble. Do you remember that moment where wow, that this is not comfortable. They don't actually feel they know where to find things. And we kept testing that over and over. I'm like, okay, we've got to do something about it. And then couple that with you getting sick and having to be on chemo hooked up. And we're like, okay, well, let's solve some problems. And that's actually how Scenarios and Seconds was born. It was out of necessity and really seeing a need for practicing pediatrics. And so that's how it all came about. But we also, over the years, we get so many really useful tips and things from you, both the people that are learning and our educators who are sharing this information. And one of the things that have come up, and if you haven't seen this movie, it's called The Sound of Freedom, and it's all about human trafficking, in particular with children. We have incorporated into our Scenarios and Seconds and all of our training systems, we have things about abuse. But this is going to be something that we're going to be focusing on in the upcoming year. We're going to call it Ending Abuse in Seconds, and it's going to have a lot more information, new scenarios that are going to be specific to trafficking and non-accidental trauma. And so from all of the things that we've already gathered so far, Scott, what would you say, is there something you could give them right now before we actually get this to them?
So when it comes to abuse, to remember it's not always the obvious stuff. A kid who comes in covered in bruises and they're at different stages, that's easy. But in the future, like Lisa said, when we come up with these new additional scenarios, they're going to touch on some of the stuff regarding abuse that's just not so clearly evident. And why that's important is, especially when it comes to little ones who aren't old enough to tell you what really happened, that's huge. Because if anything just doesn't sound right, regrettably, with few exceptions, is abuse until proven otherwise. And when it comes to trafficking, as Lisa mentioned, we're going to create some scenarios for those as well. And the moral of the story is, regrettably, around the world, meaning it's not just a third world country thing, this is very much going on in the United States. And when it comes to trafficking, the moral of the story is simple. If you don't ask, guaranteed they won't tell.
Yeah.
And Lisa, the price for these new scenarios?
Well, actually, we are, if you already own Scenarios in Seconds, we will be reaching out and getting them to you as soon as they're done. We are not going to be charging for the Ending Abuse in Seconds module. God has always provided for us, and so we're going to share that back with all of you, and we're super grateful to all the experts and people that have been helping us to put this together. So that is something that you will hopefully be seeing no matter when you bought your Scenarios in Seconds, even if it was one of the first ones 7 years ago. We're going to be including those, so you'll be able to get those from us, and then we'll be adding them in the future into all of the modules, so you'll be able to get those. Any favorite moments from over the years for things that we've done on our Gimme Fives? Or
I know one of the most popular ones was top tips for heel sticks.
Yeah, that's right.
However, my personal favorite was one of our earliest ones where we did sugar packets.
That was the first one, yeah.
That came into play simply because my daughter and Lisa were asking about drug concentrations, and it really came down to D10 versus D25 versus D50. And they all had dextrose, but actually coming up with an easy way to figure out what's the difference.
How do we do that? Yeah.
So literally in the office, we just put down 3 cups of water and put a sugar packet into one, and a couple into the third one, and a couple into the other one.
Yeah.
And we're really easy able to say, oh,
that
makes sense.
Yeah.
It's just how much sugar do you have to cram into whatever amount of liquid.
And that was really kind of it was a jumping off point, because I grabbed the phone, I'm like, let me record this. If you go back to our very first episode of Gimme Five on Friday, it was just, we were sitting downstairs we had a little diner in our basement and just doing sugar packets, and that was super fun. The heel stick one, that's been one of your most popular, I think, because gravity is your friend. I think that was one of the biggest things that people they're trying to stick the heel to get blood, and don't realize they're lifting the leg, and holding them, letting the mom or dad hold them and do that heel stick. I think that was really cool. Obviously some of our global ones have been super fun for me, being in the middle of Lake Geneva, as in Switzerland, with the giant waterfall, and interviewing the anesthesiologist who's also an EMS doc, JC, who's become a friend of ours. Just being able to interview amazing people and sharing all the cool things. And I love JC's tip. It was, you would think, oh my gosh, he's going to blow our minds with something. Do you remember JC's? It was KISS. It was literally keep it simple, straightforward. It was that don't overcomplicate stuff with kids. And I loved that was the most important thing, because he's we have really long transport times here in Switzerland, and we just need to keep it simple for people. And I love that, because we sometimes forget it, and we often will say that, that it's basics over brilliance. Mm-hmm. One of our friends years ago said that, Dave Seastrom, and that was one of those, yeah, it's true. Let's make sure you get the basics down before we go into all of the advanced stuff. But also, what was the last thing we were going to talk about? So next year, Pedi-Ed-Trics is going to be celebrating its 25th official anniversary. We tested it for a few years beforehand, but we officially became an LLC in 2000. So next year, for 2025, we are going to have a big celebration, obviously. But we are going to be throughout the year doing prizes, and we decided that we're going to embrace the Disney way of doing those prizes. So people that are commenting on our posts on Facebook and YouTube, we are actually going to be giving away prizes that way on this day. If somebody commented, the third comment on the YouTube video is how we're going to give away prizes. And we've got some really cool stuff that some of it's valuable, and some of it is signed autographed things by people. And so we're going to have some really, really great stuff to be able to give away. And thanks to all of you who make our company possible because of your commitment to kids. We're super grateful that you are here celebrating our 100th anniversary episode of our Gimme Five on Friday. And we've got some more fun stuff coming in the future. So stay tuned. And on behalf of Scott, myself, Nina, Tina, Rebecca, Derek, all of our behind the scenes people that we, Tia, like I'm trying to like name everybody. We're just so grateful. And all of the other people in that are helping with Pediatrics, we are so grateful for all of you to help with our mission to save the lives of children through education. And we will see you on another episode of Give Me 5. God bless.